Hello, good morning everyone. Today we are going to do second part of this chapter number 11, chemical effects of electric current. In the first part we had seen something about the anode, cathode, uh, the importance of electricity, about electrodes, about the substances which are good conductors of electricity, which do not conduct electricity. We had seen about distilled water, baking soda, washing soda, acid, lemon juice, vinegar, and other bases, etc. Now we will see next part, electricity through different substances. All substances, they are made up of atoms which have charged particles called electrons and protons. All substances, they have got charged particles in them, and those charged particles are electron and proton. As you all know, electrons are negatively charged particles and protons are positively charged particles. Electricity in all form is due to these charges, due to these charged particles, mainly one of them, that is about electrons. When these charged particles move in an orderly fashion, we get an electric current. When electrons get aligned themselves, when they get arranged themselves in an order, then we are able to get electricity. Now let us see about conduction in solids. Among solids, metals are good conductors of electricity. Why? Because in metals there are free electrons. Not all of them, some of them, few of them. Few electrons are not tightly bound to the atoms. They are free and they move about randomly in different directions within the metal. And when a potential difference is applied across the piece of a metal, when a voltage is applied across a piece of metal, then electrons start moving in an order in one particular direction. This flow of electrons leads to the formation of current in the metal, and we say that electric current is flowing. In other metals or other solids in which electrons are tightly bound to the atoms and are not easily available to flow, they do not conduct electricity. So any substance, any solid in which the electrons are tightly bound in their atoms, such that the electrons are not free to move, are not free to flow, then they do not conduct electricity well. As you can see in the diagram here, without applying the voltage, the electrons are moving in any direction, randomly in different directions. But when a potential difference is applied, when a voltage is applied, when it is connected to a battery, what happens? All the electrons arrange themselves in a particular direction, and the current of and the flow of electric current starts. Next we have conduction in liquids. Molten metals and mercury, a liquid metal, conduct electricity. Molten metals. What are these molten metals? That means those metals which are neither totally solid nor totally liquid, but they are in semi-solid state. We call them as molten metals. And a liquid metal, that is a mercury, they conduct electricity. The current through them is constituted by the flow of electrons. As we saw in the case of solid above, what we saw? Their current formation was because of the flow of electrons. Same is the case here. Other liquids conduct electricity because they have ions. Here molten metals and mercury, they are able to conduct electricity because of the flow of electrons. And other liquids, if they are able to conduct electricity, they are capable of doing so because they are capable of forming ions. Now the question is, what are ions? So ions are the positively or negatively charged particles. Suppose an atom loses one or more than one electron, or an atom gains one or more than one electron, then it will be known as ion. That means an atom that becomes charged by losing or gaining one or more electron is called an ion. In simple language, we can say ions are charged particles. So it so happens under certain conditions, an atom may lose electron or may gain electron. If it loses an electron or it gains an electron, it will form an ion. Suppose an atom loses electron. For example, see the case here. Potassium, it loses one electron. Then it will form K+. It is positively charged. And positively charged ions are known as cations. C-A-T-I-O-N-S, cations. And suppose iodine, it gains electron, then it will form I-. That means negative charge. Minus means negative charge. Negatively charged ions are known as anions. That's why I told you an atom may lose electron, it will lose electron, or it will gain electron. Then it will form ion. It will form ion. For example, calcium. What happened? It loses 2 electrons because it has got 2 electrons in the last orbit and it forms Ca2+. Similarly, oxygen needs 2 electrons to form octet, so it forms O2-. So about all these detail you will study in class 9 and 10, that why it loses 2 electron, why it gains 2 electron, why potassium loses 1, iodine gains 1. So in detail you will study in class 9 and 10. So these ions that have lost electrons or gained electrons have become positive charge or negative charge. That means they are positively charged. So ions carrying a positively charged or charges, they try to attract one another. They try to attract and hold one another. And because of this, there is a formation of ionic compounds. So what are ionic compounds? Compounds that have been formed by the combination of ions. For example, sodium will lose 1 electron. Its atomic number is 11. Electronic configuration we will do, it will be 2, 8, 1. So last orbit 1 electron. So it will lose 1 electron to form its octet. Similarly, chlorine, atomic number 17, electronic configuration 2, 8, 7. So last orbit 7, it requires 1 electron to form its octet, 8 in the last orbit because it has 7. So it will gain 1 electron and it will form Cl-. Now Na is plus, Cl is minus. It is positively charged, it is negatively charged. So both positively and negatively will attract one another, or they will react with one another, they will combine with one another and they will form NaCl, a neutral compound. This is called ionic compound. Why? Because it has been formed by the combination of ions. And its name is sodium chloride. So what will happen? Sodium will lose 1 electron and chlorine will gain 1 electron. The electron lost by sodium will be gained by chlorine. Sodium wants to lose 1 electron to form its octet. and chlorine needs one electron to form its octet. So both are helping one another, this one by losing one electron, this one by gaining electron, and it forms Na plus and NaCl minus, and together they form NaCl, ionic compound. Similarly, we can see in the case of potassium and iodine, they react to form potassium iodide. Similarly, calcium and oxygen react to form calcium oxide. Potassium, you will see it loses one electron, iodine gains one electron. Calcium loses 2 electrons and oxygen gains 2 electrons, and it forms calcium oxide. In this table, we have been given some of the positive ions, the cations, and some of the negative ions, the anions, and here we have been given the compounds that have been formed by the combination of these cations and anions. Next part. When an ionic compound is dissolved in water, then what happens? Then it splits into its component ions. For example, here we had seen sodium chloride. So when I will dissolve sodium chloride in water, what will happen? It will again form Na plus and Cl minus. That means it will split into these two from which it has been made. So here it splits into its component ions. A liquid or a moist paste that has ions in it is called an electrolyte. So when common salt, sodium chloride, is dissolved in water, it splits into Na plus and Cl minus ions that I already told you. And a solution of common salt is an example of electrolyte, and it will be able to conduct electricity. So in short, we can say that acids and solutions of salts and bases are electrolytes, because acids, salts and bases, what they do when they are dissolved in water, they break into their constituent ions, and then they help in the conduction of electricity, because these free ions, they carry the electric current. See here, what is happening in this, what has been shown here? Here it has been shown to us that if you take distilled water, what will happen? Conduction of electricity will not take place. But as soon as we will add some salt to this water, it will become sodium chloride solution or salt solution, and one end we have taken an electrode, and another side we have taken another electrode. This electrode we have connected to the positive terminal of the battery, another one we have taken and connected to the negative terminal of the battery. So the electrode connected to the positive terminal of the battery is known as the anode, and the electrode connected to the negative terminal of the battery is known as the cathode. So flow of ions in electrolyte will take place when we connect it in this way. Why? Because when we are applying voltage across it, what happens? This salt NaCl in water forms Na plus and Cl minus, and then it is able to conduct electricity. Here the ions are free to move. In this, the ions are free to move. And when the voltage has been applied, that means when we have connected it to a battery, why we call battery? Actually, see, in day-to-day life we say battery, but battery, it is wrong. We should say cell. One single we call cell, and a combination of cells is we call battery. So when a voltage is applied across these electrodes placed in this electrolyte, the ions start moving in an orderly fashion, in an orderly way. That means the positive, when this salt will break. It will get separated into its constituent ions Na plus and Cl minus. So Na plus will be attracted towards the negative one, and the negative one will be attracted towards the positive ones. So the positive ions move towards the cathode, the negative electrode, and the negative ions, the anions, get attracted towards the anode, the positive electrode, and their flow constitute a current through this electrolyte. That's why we tell that when acid, bases or salts are dissolved in water, or a solution is made of acid, base and salt, then they are able to conduct electricity. We can say in this way that molten ionic compounds are also electrolytes and conduct electricity. We will see the next part now. I hope you are understanding. Now come to the next part, current through the human body. Sometimes people accidentally touch the main wire or faulty electrical appliance whose surface is at a high voltage. See, you all may be knowing, or you must have heard people being killed of electric shock. Suppose an electrician is doing some work with the wire, and by mistake he comes in contact to the electric current, and if he gets shock, if the voltage is high, then that mechanic, that electrician die. Why this happens? Because electric current flow through their body to the ground, and it produces an electric shock, and the shock is so high that it burns the blood of that person's body. It does not allow the conduction of nutrients and oxygen, and hence the person is unable to breathe and the person dies. So how much severe the shock that person gets because of that electric current, it depends upon the voltage. It depends upon the amount of the current flowing. The more the magnitude of the current is higher, the voltage will be higher, and then the person may die or may be saved. And how much current, how much shock, what severe shock will he get, it also depends on whether the person's body is wet or dry. So if you are asked question, what are the three factors on which the severity of the shock depends, then you may write on the magnitude of the current, on the amount of the voltage or the magnitude of the voltage, and whether the body is dry or wet. If your body is dry, you may get less shock. If your body is wet, you will get much shock. Tap water, rainwater, sweat contains dissolved substances which help in conducting electricity. So when our body is wet because of the tap water, or it is raining, or we are sweating, then the current will pass through our body at a greater speed than when our body is dry. A voltage of about 100 volts current, about 100 volts, produces a tingling sensation if the body is dry. Try to understand. If my body is dry and I touch a wire of 100 volt, then what will happen? A tingling sensation will be there. Little bit we call jhanjanahat, no? Junjuni type. and the person is wearing shoe. That means I am dry also, my body is dry also, and I am wearing shoes also. Then 100-volt wire will also, even if I will touch, then I will get a tingling sensation. But if my body is wet and I am not wearing any slipper or shoes, then what will happen? This same 100 volts will be so much severe that it may burn and even can cause death to me. That's why we are advised by our teachers, by our elders, that never do any electric work without knowing. If you are knowing, then only do. If you are doing, do under the guidance of your elders. If you are knowing, then only do. Even if you are doing and you are knowing how to do what things has to be done, and you are capable of doing, then also you have to wear shoes, you have to gloves in your hand, you have to stand on wooden material or any such material which is an insulator. We are never advised to test with our hand. We have to test with the help of a tester. We are advised never to touch barefooted. That means always wear shoes or boot or slipper, stand on in insulator, and then do any electrical work. So I hope you all have understood up to here. Next part we will see in another video. Thank you.